In the quest for God, the first question seems to me to be, is there a spirit world? My deconstructionist and atheist friends believe there is not a spirit world, and if there's not a spirit world, then there cannot be a God. So, if there is a spirit world, that doesn't identify God, but it does strongly suggest, maybe requires, that there is a God. So I'd like to unpack the spirit world, as my pastor friends would say. The Bible, of course, talks in great length about the spirit world, and you may not believe the Bible. That we will leave for another discussion. Nonetheless, we'll look at some examples here. I think the strongest evidence is the existence of near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. These are common, and they are also investigated and shown to be real. And then there's personal experience, which I'll talk about toward the end of this post. And yes, my atheist and deconstructionist friends will disregard personal experience. But as we add up the evidence from the Bible and from ODEs and NDEs and personal experience, there is more and more that my atheist and deconstructionist friends have to disregard if they are going to choose to disregard God. Let's get started. The spirit world. The heart of everything, the bottom line, influences to our culture, and every culture is and always has been the spirit world. We are at war. All of us, like it or not. The battle is spiritual. The battlefield is our minds. Paul reminds us of that in Ephesians 6, verse 12. Our battle is not this. Our battle is not a battle we can see, but our battle is a battle of ideas and morality. But it's very, very real. There are numerous accounts in the Bible of the dimension of the spirit world interacting with our dimension. Way back in the beginning, in creation, God walked with Adam and Eve. 2 angels met Abraham on their way to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Jacob wrestled with an angel. Daniel saw angels, and Daniel was fasting, and he was fasting for a couple of weeks, and an angel came to him and says, "I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner. I was sent when you started your fast, but I was battling with the prince of Persia." That is, a good angel was battling with an evil angel who had been assigned by evil forces to oversee Persia. And then this good angel told Daniel, "When I'm done here, I have to go battle with the prince of Greece," indicating that there are good and bad forces in the spiritual dimension that are overseeing us in our dimension. We can't see them. We can't move into their dimension in this body, but they can see us and somehow, at some times, can enter our dimension. One of my favorite examples is when Elisha is being tracked down and surrounded by soldiers who want to take him to an opposing king. And the servant comes out and sees all of these soldiers and is very frightened, and Elisha says, "Don't worry. Greater are they that are with us." And the servant, like, "What are you talking about, old man? Old bald man." Yeah, it was Elisha. Anyway, the servant was concerned, and Elisha prayed that God would open the eyes of the servant to see what Elisha could see. And the servant then saw the hills covered with angels in flaming chariots protecting Elisha and his servant. And the story goes on. It's kind of fun if you want to go read it, and it's here. An angel appeared to Mary. An angel appeared to Joseph. Demons seemed to be very active while Jesus was in his ministry. And why would demons be so active then? And we hardly see any incidents of that now. Well, Jesus, God incarnate, meeting with his creation in person, is the greatest enemy of the demons. And so they upped their game. And Jesus cast them out on several occasions. One of the most notable is when he cast out some unknown number of demons into a herd of pigs, 2,000 pigs. And do note that in all cases there was no battle. When Jesus said go, they went. That was it. Most of those examples have been God working. Here Chuck Missler talks about the long-term plan of the enemy, Satan.
What are his strategies during this interval now? Well, he tried to corrupt Adam's line. He knew that when as God reveals his plans, he revealed that both heaven and earth are going to be redeemed by a man from the line of Adam. So Satan's attack is on Adam's line in Genesis 4 as well as Genesis 6, but definitely Genesis 6, that's what led to the flood. But as God focuses reveals his plan in a little more detail, it's going to come through Abraham. And then suddenly Abraham's seed are a primary target of Satan in Genesis 12 and 20 and elsewhere. The famine in Genesis 50 and so on. The destruction of the male line in Exodus 1. But, Moses is miraculously salvaged and so on. Pharaoh's pursuit, even after he reveals them, he goes after them in Exodus 14 after the Passover. All of these are attempts by Satan to wipe out, to thwart God's plan. As God reveals his plan, it allows Satan to focus his energies. When God tells Abraham that after 400 years his descendants are going to come back here to the land of Canaan, that gave Satan 4 centuries to lay down a minefield. And that's why the Nephilim and all of that were replanted there again. And that's why Joshua was told to wipe out every man, woman, and child of four key tribes, because there was a gene pool problem there. And then as God further explains that he's going to do it through the line of David, that makes David's line a special target of Satan. Satan's able to focus his attack as God incrementally reveals his plans in 2 Samuel 7 and so on. In David's line, Joram kills all his brothers except one. The Arabians slew them all but Ahaziah. Athaliah kills all, but Joash gets... There's always a little miraculous child or what have you that thwarts Satan's attempt to wipe out the messianic line. Hezekiah is assaulted and all that. Haman's attempts in Persia and Esther is well known and worth your attention. This doesn't end in the Old Testament. New Testament, Joseph's fears with Mary are fatal if you'd follow the law. Herod's attempts to wipe out the babes in Bethlehem, trying to throw Jesus at the synagogue of Nazareth when he announces his ministry, they try to throw him off a cliff. And there are the storms at sea. There were 2 of them, and I don't think they were natural storms. These were fishermen who were used to fishing on those waters, and they were terrified for their lives. No, those weren't just tough storms. Those, I believe, that's why Jesus rebukes the wind. I think they were supernaturally in their origin. And of course, the ultimate one is the cross. The cross. And we have that summary in Revelation 12 that I just went through. And he's not through yet. He's still at it. And we need to understand what his agenda is and what his resources, because he's not through. And you and I are both the pawns and the prize in this drama.
Okay, there are just a few examples of biblical accounts of the spirit world, the spirit dimension interacting with our dimension. But what about current evidence? We have out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, and skeptics will say and have said to me, show me peer review. Well, you can't have peer review because you can't reproduce it in the lab. These are things that happen. These are events that occur outside the realm of science. What you can do is review the evidence and ask yourself, do I believe what this evidence suggests? And the evidence in my mind is basically a person being in two places at the same time. And listen to that. Don't let that skip by you. Two places at the same time. That, to me, is the heart of the evidence. There will be someone who is clinically dead, laying on a bed in one room in a hospital, while their consciousness is going somewhere else, into another room, seeing other things. And when the person is revived, which seems to be defined as this other consciousness returning to the body so that the body and the spirit are again one, which I choose to define as life. Our spirit residing in our body, we are then alive. When our spirit leaves our body, we are dead. That's me. So when that consciousness returns, that person remembers what that consciousness has seen. And that consciousness has gone to another location and sees things that this person can recite that can only be true, can only be known if that consciousness were actually there. These things have been studied as far as they can be studied, in that the people have been interviewed and then people in the other location have been interviewed. And is this what actually happens? Is this what was said? And the person in the other location says, yes, this is what happened. This is what was said. And it correlates with what the dead person saw. If you want to see a couple examples of that, here's one source, here's another source, and those sources are summarized in this book, Beyond Death, Gary Habermas and J.P. Moreland. Witness of personal encounters with angels. You may not like it, but here it is, and there's way more than I can relate in just a little post like this. There is a movement in Muslim countries of Muslim followers of Islam coming to Jesus.
In many Middle Eastern countries, it's illegal to share the Christian message. So what is God doing? He's bringing dreams about Jesus to these people. This is a phenomenon that is sweeping the Middle East. I'll give you an example. A woman named Noor, mother of 8, Muslim, lives in Cairo. One night, she has a Jesus dream. It's the most profound, vivid dream, unlike any other she's ever had. And Jesus appears to her. She feels the love and the grace and the forgiveness and the kindness of Jesus just radiating from him. And she's overwhelmed by it. She's never felt anything like it. And they're walking along a lake, and she says, Jesus, tell me more about you. And he says, my friend will tell you. A guy was walking with them along the lakeside. The next day, she goes to the crowded marketplace in Cairo. She sees the man from her dream. Wow. She goes up to him. You were in my dream. She said, whoa, what are you talking about? You were the man in my dreams. And he said, did you have a dream about Jesus?
You don't believe that. I've seen several posts confirming that, and even more convincing to me, I have a friend, an Egyptian friend, who knows people to whom that has happened, people to whom Jesus has appeared. This person who told me knows and is reliable. There are other instances. I have a nephew. He and his wife were house parents in Rift Valley Academy. In the early 1950s, there was an uprising of the Mau Mau tribe in Kenya. The tribe was going around destroying white people. They had completely taken out one village, over 300 people, and they were on their way to also destroy those at Rift Valley Academy, a boarding school for missionary children. The people at Rift Valley heard that the Mau Mau's were coming and called for military help. But the military didn't get there until after the Mau Mau's arrived. The Mau Mau's were on their way, but then turned and ran into the woods. The military captured the rebels and put them on trial, and during a trial they said, "Did you do what you did to this village?" And the particular person on trial said, "Yeah, we did." "Were you intending to do the same to Rift Valley Academy?" He says, "Yeah, we were intending to. We were on our way." "Well, why didn't you?" They said, "When we got there, the compound was surrounded by soldiers. They decided they better not attack, and they took off into the woods." Rift Valley Academy did not have anyone guarding it. Those were angels to protect those at Rift Valley Academy. In the life of my family, when my son and his wife had their first child, and the little guy wasn't even old enough to talk yet, just a little guy, they were traveling and they stopped for pizza. And the little guy really liked pizza, but he wouldn't eat it. And my son and his wife ate pizza. They'd put it up to the little guy's mouth and he would just go. He wouldn't eat it. Now, I've talked recently to my daughter-in-law about that. She doesn't remember this part, but I remember when she first told me. She said that the little guy, was kind of looking up off to the side as though someone were there. I think there was an angel telling him, "Don't eat the pizza," and convinced him not to eat the pizza. Let me tell you the rest of the story. My son and his wife got terribly ill from food poisoning, the worst they've ever had in their lives. They went to emergency, but the little guy didn't have food poisoning because he didn't eat the pizza. Later on, when our daughter-in-law was taking the little guy to his pediatric visit, they related the story, and the pediatrician said, "As small as young as your little guy is, if he had eaten that pizza, he may very well not have survived." I'll also tell you, stories like this are not uncommon. There is a spirit world. It does impact our world. And as far as reality goes, the spirit world is much more real than this world.